I
I forgot, sorry, and it's really annoying, that voice, isn't it? I always forget. Carry on, Lizzie, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, so Natalie and I was just trying to think, how long ago did we meet?
Probably
like
year about a year ago.
Yeah. So we met, and I started delivering a bit of yoga and meditation for Natalie's community, and then that sort of our relationship developed. And I've been doing some coaching with Natalie, did a bit of training with Natalie, and I'm still doing some coaching, but I'm going to be supporting all of you on your journey here as well through a few of these sessions. And my passion and interest is in wellness, so mental, physical, emotional and spiritual. So just here for you all.
Amazing. And Lizzie will be leading a few of the weeks, mainly in month 2. So through February, she does a little bit more of the leader within and ally work. So you're going to be in safe hands with that. Okay, so just before we get into the intros, we're going to just kick off with a bit of a 5-minute meditation, if that's all right with everyone, because I'm really aware that we all just rush here. We've got kind of loads going on, and it's really important that we just arrive. So we're going to kind of do a bit of a New Year intention setting meditation, and then we'll come back together and open up and share a little bit about ourselves. With these, we'll try and do them the most weeks because it sets the scene, but feel free to pop your cameras off if you want to get comfy. Don't feel like you have to be on screen with this. You do whatever you feel makes you comfortable. And Lizzie, over to you, my love.
Okay, everyone, so just get yourselves nice and comfortably seated. Again, you can just switch your cameras off if you feel awkward being watched when you're meditating. So just gently lengthening through the spine now, and just allowing your shoulders just to drop away from the ears. And then I invite you all to just gently close your eyes, and perhaps gently tucking the chin in just a tiny little bit so that you're lengthening through the neck as well, which is an extension of the spine. And as we arrive now, just become familiar with the space that you're in. So just tuning into your surroundings. Just allowing everything to quieten and soften. So perhaps just tuning into just any gentle external sensations. So the sound of my voice. Perhaps noting the temperature against your skin. Perhaps noting any smells as well in the room. And perhaps as well, just noting the gentle touch of where your hands are. So if you're seated cross-legged like I am, or if you're just seated on a chair, just start to notice the softness of your hands just against your legs or on your knees. Perhaps just noticing a gentle tingling sensation in the hands, just feeling that warmth and energy there. Just allowing our bodies to soften now. So allow the feet and the legs to be nice and soft. Allow the pelvis to be soft. Allow your base, your seat to be soft. Allow the spine and the back to be nice and long and soft. Allow those shoulders to be soft. Allow the arms to be soft. And allowing the neck to be soft as well. And softening the head, the back of the head. Softening the crown of the head, softening your face. So allowing the creases to relax in your forehead. Allow the eyes to roll back into their sockets. And perhaps just gently parting the lips just a little bit, so just releasing any tightness, tension that you might be holding in your jaw. Now I'd like you to take a nice deep inhale through the nose, and then exhale it all out of the mouth. Again, nice deep inhale through the nose, and then exhale it out of the mouth. One more of those, nice deep inhale. And exhale. And just noticing as the breath softens now, the body softens as well. And just continue to breathe in and out through the nose now if you can. And as you breathe in and out through the nose, just noticing how you start to create a little bit more space within you as you focus on your breath. So as you maintain your focus on your breath, I'm just going to guide you towards setting an intention. So we're in the new year, but we're also just around a new moon, the new moon in Capricorn. And when there's a new moon, this is the perfect opportunity to set an intention. And as we're in the new year, it's a really good opportunity to check in where you are at with your needs, with your values, and perhaps with your goals. So our needs are directly connected to our values. So just like you to assess just in this moment, just think about a couple of your needs and a couple of your values. And are you meeting your needs and your values? Just spending a few moments just wondering, just noticing, just considering. And then if there are any of your needs or values that you feel are not being met, can you set yourself an intention, a heartfelt desire that you can create, that you can commit to this year, a promise that you make to yourself? So I'd like you using the words, I promise or I am, and then using the word, the intention at the end. And then I'd like you to repeat that intention to yourself 3 times. Spending a few moments here. And then I'd like you to hold on to this intention now. Perhaps when you wake up each morning, think of that intention. To take a nice deep inhale through the nose again. And then exhale out the nose. Again, nice deep inhale through the nose. And exhale. Another one of those nice deep inhale. And exhale. And then when you're ready, very gently, just wriggling your fingers and your toes. And then gently opening your eyes.
Welcome back, everyone. I feel like we've just created a little bit more space. Hopefully it's allowed us just to leave some of the lists and the things to do at the door and allow you to just step into this full hour with a little bit more, I guess a little bit more connection with yourself. And that's why we sometimes just start with something like that. Okay, so into the first session of the journey within. So I just want to give a bit of an overview about kind of what the premise of the journey within is about. Obviously, a lot of you have connected with that and resonate with that already. But through this next 12 weeks, we're going to try and bring you back into alignment with your true self. So I think you'll all resonate when I say, like, life is a series of losing yourself and finding yourself, like time and time again. So for us, it's about having the tools for when we feel a little bit lost, and we're floating upstream without a paddle, that we've got a few tools to bring us back into alignment. And when we talk about alignment, we mean alignment with our core values, with our true authentic self. And it gets quite hard sometimes to know what's ours and what isn't. But it's all about building that intuition muscle and understanding kind of like what's right for us, kind of at a core belief and true essence level. And as we move through this process, you'll find that you get a bit clearer about the stuff that actually is your truth versus the stuff that maybe you've taken on and been conditioned with, other people's beliefs, opinions, all of that stuff. And my favorite quote for the whole program is, "Who were you before the world told you who to be?" So that's leads with everything we do, right? Because actually, if we don't take control, then actually we're living other people's life stories, and we're actually being the author of their stories rather than our own. So it's about redefining that, being that kind of like showgirl at the beginning, at the right front and center of our own lives, basically, and actually taking that power back right now today. And we'll lead you through a really nice process of that through the next 12 weeks. But that's very much the premise of where we're going. And I believe that it's not about finding that true self. It's about remembering. Because actually, we'll talk about childhood essence next week, but we were born into the world with so many unique gifts, but actually we've kind of lost our connection with that along the way. And the first questions we ask around actually what were we like as children, because actually there's a lot of signs there and kind of like really key information about whether we were an introvert, an extrovert. Like Lizzie talks a lot about just being fascinated with like the ground and fossils and like stones and, you know, and kind of geology. And that's really similar to kind of her interest here today. I speak to a lot of people about, a lady recently said to me, I just loved babies. She would go and actually knock on people's doors and ask to take their babies for a walk. I know this was about 20 years ago, so it was okay to do that then. And she's just retrained as a midwife, and she knew deep down always that that was her kind of core, her core calling. So a lot of this is actually reconnecting with some of that, but it takes time. So don't stress if some of this doesn't come up overnight. It will just take a bit of time. It will take some reflection as well. So no, I'm super excited. Amazing. So just to kick us off, I would love you. We have got an icebreaker that Lizzie's going to do in a second. But I would love you just to introduce, and I'm going to keep this quite open because you guys might want to share different things, but I'd love you to just introduce yourself, what's brought you to the program, and maybe share one of your program goals. And it might be your intention from the meditation that we just covered just now, just to give people a flavor, because actually we're all holding each other to account here too, right? So actually the more we like show up and actually step into this space, the more we can actually hold each other through this cycle that we're moving through as well. Does anyone want to go first, or shall I just randomly choose?
I don't mind going first. I know how awkward these can be.
Go for it. Thank you.
So hi everyone, I'm Ellie. I'm 30. I feel like I'm on a blind date now. I'm 32. I live in Benson, so I'm quite local. And what brought me to join the journey within, I was really fortunate. I got a coaching session with Natalie mid last year, was it now? It was quite a while ago. So I had my little girl in 2020, in the midst of COVID and crazy time. And I think I was just struggling to find a balance, like work out who I am. I don't know if you guys have got children and stuff, but going through that experience, you kind of put like your heart and soul in this little human being. And then when I went back to work, I was like, oh God, I've got to remember who I am and like what's important to me and what I like doing and all this stuff. And I've just really struggled to kind of strike a balance that I feel fulfilled with. I'm very good at kind of like ticking the boxes for everyone else's needs, but perhaps I've not really re-established like what am I doing? Like what am I after? So a bit of background on me. So as I say, I live in Benson. My family live on the Isle of Wight. We've always moved around quite a bit, quite a fragmented family. Maybe I'll go into that at a different time, but there's a big background there. Lauren, who's actually on this journey as well, is a very, very good friend. So she's one of my best friends. I'm so happy she's here. So yeah, she'll be grinning as I tell some of these stories. She'll know the more intense details. Interest-wise, I hate that, hobbies or tell you an interesting fact, but absolutely love my yoga. Been practicing that for about 2-3 years now, so that really, really helps me in my mindset. And I love traveling the world. Like chuck yourself into a different culture or go to a new place and you can get completely lost, and it's the only time I genuinely feel like I disconnect, which is scary, and it's quite intimidating on a backdrop of 2 years of COVID. So I need to book those flights. I need to get back out there. I feel like that's stopping me from being who I am, which is just compounding then the issue that I face, which is why this is really, really important. We've got a VW camper van. So those who know me, I am a bit of a hippie. I would walk barefoot forever if I could. But when you look at that then and be talking about that and what I do as a job, very different. So I'm in the corporate world. I work for an energy company. I've got about 200 people that work within my team. It's freaking awesome because I get to do like people development stuff, but I work in energy and that's not sexy, and I don't ever talk about that down at the pub. So it's really like a yin and yang in terms of what I talk about from an interest to what I've then found myself doing as a career, which whether there's something in that or not, and I can explore it. And then I think some of my goals and intentions, I don't really know what they look like. I'm trying to just be really kind to myself this year and not put myself under so much pressure. So one of my intentions would definitely be kind, and predominantly to myself. And I'm not going to call that being selfish, because it's not. And I think that's the stuff that I've been conditioned, perhaps. It'll be interesting to see what lays ahead. But yeah, I am kind, I'm strong, because I am a strong, badass female who can be a mum and a career woman and a friend and a partner and all that stuff. I also just need to go back to that initial, just be kind to myself, because I tend to put everyone else first. And then I have to justify why I'm going to put myself first. And that's just bullshit, excuse my French, because we should put ourselves first. And then my third one was just giving back. So if I look at my core values and where I get real fulfillment from, it's helping other people. So in some way, shape or form, if I can give back, be it to even you ladies going on this journey together, and we can bounce off each other, like that would be awesome.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And there's a lot there that I want to unpick in time, and I think it might be that you get a few answers around the job and the giving back when we get to month 3 around life purpose.
Amazing.
Because actually with life purpose and our being on purpose, we often rush that process and try and find our why before our who. And often if we know who we are and what our natural abilities are, then actually the why falls out of it. So Jo, for example, is a teacher, and you might find through the program, actually, it makes sense what I do, why I do what I do, right? So actually it just will start to all kind of make sense. But coming in with like that kind of problem is a really nice challenge for me to hold you to account with that as well.
Amazing. Please do.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, and then I'm going to go to Lauren next then, because obviously Lauren has a link to Ellie.
Follow on naturally. Ellie, I would just like to say we're 31.
What did I say?
32 in January.
Don't
age us, please. Don't
You're like,
age us.
stop adding on years.
I know. I wanted to butt in and be like, we're 31.
See, I'm aging myself. This is why I need help.
That's a bonus. You've got a year back, guys. Like, seriously.
Wow. We're February babies. So, yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren. I'm one of Ellie's best friends. I am the baby of my family. I have a brother and a sister. What am I? A mother of 2. My daughter's 7. My son's 4. I'm a single mum. Recently, I'm going to get emotional, so I won't go there. What else am I going to say? I'm a project manager at Oxford University. I've been there since 2014. I love my job. I love my job, but I struggle with the work-life balance. Running around after 2 children, being a taxi, going here, there, and everywhere. So I feel like I'm like, I don't really do anything for myself anymore. I really used to love swimming, but I honestly probably haven't had a hobby for myself since my daughter was born, so like 7 years ago. So that's why I'm here, to try and be reborn and realign and set my boundaries again.
Exactly.
Stop there because I feel myself getting emotional.
Okay, that's fine. Well done. Thank you so much for sharing, Lauren. That's absolutely perfect. Who am I going to go to next? Jo. No, you did me a little wave as I said your name then.
I actually feel quite old. I'm 44. You're all in your 30s, so I'm going to be one of the older ones, I think, in the group. So yeah, I'm Jo. I'm 44. I am a mum to 2 gorgeous children. Archie's 14 and Libby is 10. And as Natalie said, I am a full-time primary school teacher. And I've been at the same school for about the last 13 years. I've been teaching for about 15 years. And I know Natalie lived a few doors down from me a few years ago. And then I sort of saw her on Instagram, started stalking her a bit in a non-weird way, but just watching her, and a lot of the things she said sort of resonated. And I just feel like, especially over the last few years with the pandemic and teaching in a pandemic and juggling my own kids in a pandemic, that I don't know how to put myself first anymore. Like I just don't take time for myself. I know I don't. My husband says, you need to find something that you enjoy and something that you do for yourself. But I'm constantly thinking, I need to do this, or I need to do that, or, I've got this for work. So I think for me, my biggest goal is just to learn to put myself first and take a bit of time for me, because I know I'm terrible at it. So even things like meditating, and I did the visualization that Natalie put on. I find even things like that where I make my brain stuff, I find quite hard. So I think it's learning how to stop, relax, find things that I enjoy, and just bring things back to me a bit more, because I think especially as you know, as parents, you tend to put kids first and then your jobs, and so for me I think it's just about just giving myself more time to enjoy things, I think.
Yeah, amazing. And I think one thing I'd say, Jo, for everyone is actually with the meditations and stuff, don't worry if that feels hard initially, because actually we are reprogramming, like for me 33 years of kind of busy mind. So actually, it's not suddenly. I always compare it to like waking up and running a half marathon the day after. Like you wouldn't do that, would you? Right? No. So it's kind of like giving yourself a bit of time to like get a bit better at it. But it doesn't feel like comfy at the beginning. It's not like, well, most of us are like, oh no, it's not for me then. But actually, like, let yourself lean into it. By the end, it'll probably feel a little bit more natural. But it can take people years, because actually our mind, you know, is so busy, and we live in a world where actually we're constantly stimulated. So don't worry, or kind of don't feel defeated if that feels tricky, because I wish I'd heard that when I started meditating. I felt like everyone else was like doing it really awesomely, and I was like, why do I find it so hard?
Yeah, it is. And I think for me, just finding time for myself, learning to relax, also putting some boundaries up. I think I know you speak about being a people pleaser. I 100% am a people pleaser. I like to do things with the people and put them first, and I think I need to put some boundaries. And what actually made me press the button to you, someone was quite mean to me on text, and I'm not very good with confrontation. There was no need for the message or anything, so it's like, right, I'm doing this course with Natalie because I want to learn how to put boundaries and things up. So hopefully that will be helpful as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you'll find when we get onto values, boundaries fall out of values. So once you're clear about the value, the boundary becomes really easy. But actually the issue is we haven't often connected it to what the cost is or what we're losing. So we haven't been able to then be really strong in the know. But if you connect it back and say, hang on a minute, by doing this, I'm not honoring X, and this is the cost to me, then I think it makes the kind of no easier. But we've not often made that connection. So that'll come really nicely in at week 2 in terms of values, actually. And we'll push each other to go and have some of these difficult conversations as well, because that's what it's all about. It's not about just staying in our ivory tower. We're going to go out and actually be that in the world and change. And some people won't like it, you know, and that's okay. Some of those people might fall away. Other people might come in. Like, this is a real shifting process. Thank you for sharing. And Kelly, my love, over to you.
Hi everyone. I'm Kelly. I'm 42. It's my birthday on Monday. The new moon of Capricorn is coming in. I met Natalie purely by chance at one of her sister's sound baths. So I'm a mum of 2 children and a wife, and my little boy's 7. And then I've also had a child during COVID as well in 2020. So my little boy Roman is now nearly 18 months. So I've been on a bit of a journey, and I'm glad you nearly cried, Lauren, but I'm one of these people that cry all the time. But I've been on my call with Natalie, I cried and then felt really bad, because I was like, oh my God, we connected so well. And then I bawled my eyes out, because I'm one of these people that, well, I've discovered that I am a very much a highly sensitive person, but I'm learning more about it, that I can embrace the good parts of it as well as the not so great, that I feel and sense every sort of emotion that there is. But I've changed a lot, and I don't know if you felt the same, Ellie, that with having a child during COVID, people have always been quite negative about it. But for me, it was a really positive experience, because it actually allowed me to take a step back. I work for the NHS, I work in comms and PR, and have done for 13 years. And I'm always very outgoing. I've always been a bit of a party girl and loved that aspect. But I've always been a people pleaser, and I've always been like striving for that recognition that I want to be liked, and I don't like it if someone doesn't like me. And I've been burnt recently by a few friends who have like called me out for not being the person I used to be. And I have changed, and I recognize that I have, and I don't feel that I should be apologetic for the way I am now. And I think, I don't know, I've started on a bit of a journey with, I meditate now twice. I try to meditate twice a day because it starts me on a good footing, but I do find that I get really stressed really quickly, and especially, as you can appreciate, having 2 children, it does pull on you, and I don't want to be calm one minute and then lose my head the next over something really small. But I recognize that my mind gets really busy and really full, and it's actually, for me, this is about taking that step back, being kind to myself, but also, like Joe said, like setting those boundaries, that actually it's okay, because actually it's about you and your health and my mental health. Like, I've suffered in the past with anxiety and depression. I don't want to go back there. I want to be strong. See, this is what happens. I talk and then I cry. But you know, it's just, I want to embrace who I am now and recognize that it's not a bad person. See, this is what happens. I'm
celebrating that, you know, celebrating all of that. It feels like you're really on the cusp of like a new beginning almost. Do you know what I mean? And it's about really embracing who you're becoming. I love saying that. Like, does all of this work, do the people, do the subjects, do the conversations we have in our life, do they support who we're becoming? That has to be a yes, right? Because actually it has to be moving us forward. And actually that's a really good question for us, because every single day with something that crops up, like, is this supporting who I'm becoming? Because actually, if we've outgrown that version of us, then actually that isn't serving us anymore.
Not being apologetic for it either, because actually I want to embrace the person that I am now and not be seen as some like, oh, you're no fun anymore. I'm still fun, but I want to have that time. I want to get the balance right. I don't want to be out all the time. That doesn't appeal to me anymore. Actually, what matters for me is getting the balance right with work, with family, having time for me. I've got a horse, so I do get to go out and be in the fresh air like twice a day, whether I like it or not. But actually, that's my savior, because getting out in the fresh air is what I need, because I find being in, sometimes I just feel like my head's going to explode. To just step outside brings me back. And
you've got so much awareness already about the stuff that helps. It's almost kind of really like focusing in on
fine-tuning it.
One thing that's coming up for me is just this quote that says, your mind is the calculator, your intuition is the compass. So think about that sometimes with like, sometimes we're in our head with the busy thoughts. That isn't necessarily the voice that drives us forward. So it's kind of sometimes quietening that mind so we can almost like listen to the intuition. And that's what we're going to be doing, like training that intuition muscle through this program, because the mind is always trying to keep us safe. So actually, that's not always the voice that we need to listen to, because if we're trying to become something new, our mind's going, no, we don't want to do that over there, because actually your mind's trying to keep you safe. So it's knowing actually when we're getting in our own way with a lot of this stuff as well. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to give you all just a little challenge now of just writing down, and I will ask you to share, but you don't have to if you want a bit more time with this. But in 3 months, and I want you to finish that sentence. And then Lizzie, we're going to go to you with the icebreaker, if that's all right, next. And again, with this, first thing that comes to mind. First thing is always the right thing. That's the lesson. Because we'll often cross it out a few times. Does anyone want to share in 3 months? I
want to be happy and confident.
Love it.
In 3 months, I know who I am.
Oh, strong. Love it.
In 3 months, I will be strong and brave.
Amazing. Yeah, Joe?
I put in 3 months' time, I will enjoy guilt-free time to do things I enjoy.
Love that. Isn't that amazing how you've just connected with that strong statement just from like the start, you know, and how easily that came through as well, right? Like we didn't have to really think too much about that. I kind of said to you guys, share if you want, and you all stepped in. So it just shows like how much this is totally accessible for us, you know. It's going to be, honestly, I'm so excited. Okay, Lizzie, we're going to go over to you quickly. I know you've just got a soft icebreaker. It's just going to lead us on a little bit from the stuff we've already covered, and then we're going to go into more for the second 20-25 minutes. The second is going to be more about the program content, covering a bit of what you've already done and then what you're going to go into doing for next week. But I wanted to spend half the session on kind of really just kind of getting us familiar, really. All right.
So are we just spending a couple of minutes on this?
Yes, if that's all right.
Yeah,
it'll just lead us on, I think, from what we've already done.
Okay, great. Well, actually, this icebreaker kind of ties in quite nicely with all of your introductions. So I'd like you to, in 3 words, describe yourself, your personality, or your approach to life or work. So 3 words to describe you: work, life, your personality.
One thing I'd say is, do try and answer this from the perspective of who you're becoming, because you might feel like right now you're X, but I want to be X. So maybe try and think of it as, yeah, who are you in your like biggest, brightest vision when you're glowing from head to toe, because actually that's what we're going to be calling in and manifesting through this program. So it's almost kind of like on your really good day when you're like, I'm having a smashing day and I'm rocking it. You know, that's the energy we want to lean into.
You want us to share them?
If you're happy to.
So,
Kelly, so do you want to
kind, passionate and determined.
Oh, lovely. That's come up twice, that word now, determined, for you, Lauren.
I am.
I know.
No, I know. If I say it enough, I'll believe it enough, and then it will become that.
Exactly.
What was your first word, Lauren?
Kind. Do you agree?
Yes, yeah.
You're like, what? Sorry, what was that?
I just genuinely didn't hit you. That's all.
Kelly, over to you.
Oh, sorry. I was kind, giving, and loving. I am, not I was. I am.
Yeah, it's always an I am. Ellie?
I've got fun, productive, and determined.
I'm interested to hear a bit more about productive in time. This will really link to your value work, so make a note of all of this stuff, because we'll come back to it when we look at values, because this is going to come in then as well. Joe?
I'm kind, caring, and fun.
So everyone pretty much, like, we've talked about kind, haven't we, as well? So that's really, really interesting as a theme of the group, which takes me on to the Dharma quiz. Did everyone manage to do the Dharma quiz? Okay. And what did you guys come out as?
I took a picture of it to remind myself.
I was predominantly a maker, 65% a maker.
Interesting. And did you resonate with some of the stuff that it said, Joe? Because this is, again, another tool. Some of it, with anything in this course, I'm putting a bit more information there about the breakdown. But with anything in this course, it's all a toolkit. So some of it might not resonate as much as the others, but the Dharma quiz is a really nice one, because actually it's about your true, authentic self. And actually, funnily, with the kind piece, I'm predicting that there might be a few guides in this group, just because of the nature of giving back. But it's just a really nice reference point. We'll do this quiz at the end as well, because you might shift through the process.
Yeah, I was like 15% guide, and when I read sort of the blurb about each one, I was surprised I wasn't more of a guide, because they say teachers probably more, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, so I resonated with some of the stuff on the maker. Yeah, I was just interested. And then I was 20% a leader, and I wouldn't necessarily put myself as a leader. I don't put myself out there like at school in terms of leadership. I always turn it down. So it's interesting, but yeah.
But maybe it's a different way that you're leading, like, because I think I talk a lot about this in terms of like your true authentic self, and actually kind of like you might have a ripple effect or make a bit of change through having one conversation with someone about a really insightful topic. You don't need to be kind of like shouting from the rooftop. So yeah, like that, your leadership style, you are a leader, but you're just doing that in a different way.
Yeah.
I'd also challenge you to do the quiz again in a different environment. So if you did it at home, do it at school. If you did it at school, do it at home. Because actually you're probably wearing a different mask in a different environment. So I'd do it across all of them. and actually see which comes out consistently as well.
Yeah.
Any others?
So mine was 45% maker and then 25% leader, 25% guide.
Okay.
Thought when reading the maker and the guide together, I would have been more guide, like you said.
Okay. And again, like I said to Joe, maybe sit with that, do it in a different environment as well. And it's only just, it's one tool that's kind of like a great mirror to just be able to kind of look at one perspective. I love Jay Shetty, and I've just sent you all the reading list on Slack, but I use a lot of his concepts of leaning into your natural strengths, and the concept of what if your strengths were someone else's weaknesses and vice versa. So actually it's about all of this is unlearning and coming back to the stuff that comes easily, because we're so conditioned to be like, I'm going to be good at everything, an all-rounder, or like work hard at the stuff I'm not good at. But actually, what if that's not ours to work hard at? This is all about the stuff like true, authentic self. And some of it might not resonate initially because of the conditioning, right? Because you might have worked really hard to become another area. So actually, it's bringing us back to the stuff that we're natural at. And that will take a bit of time. So don't worry if it kind of doesn't quite resonate at the moment. We'll come back to it.
Well,
Ellie,
I found it really interesting. Sorry, I'm just going to say this one thing. And when I was saying how like a lion compares itself to a bird or whatever, and then the bird's there wanting to be the lion. And I was like, oh, I always find myself looking at other people and like, I wish I had that. I wish I had this. And then I never think until people say, well, I wish I had certain things that you have. I think, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No, but I really like that analogy though, isn't it? Because that's what it's all about. Like, why are we all trying to be one and the same and like everyone else? Because actually we all have our own unique gifts, and that's what this is all about. Because actually, if we embrace our uniqueness, there's never any competition, because actually we're showing up and we're all having such different value to offer to the world. But as you kind of reconnect with that authenticity, Lauren, that will become easier, and you'll actually start to kind of not do that as much, because you'll be able to kind of like this inner worth piece will shine a little bit more. But that's totally natural to feel like that sometimes. I think again it's looking outward, right, rather than looking inward. Ellie, what were you?
So I was 35% creator and 30% leader, and then maker and guide were quite small, which doesn't surprise me because I've done similar type of like profiling things in the past, and I've always been a creator or yellow character, which often drives a lot of like my chaotic behavior and short attention span, if I'm really honest with myself. But a lot of it does resonate, and it's interesting because the gap's closed on creator and leader since I've probably done this in the past, which may or may not be some of the conditioning stuff, because that's what I do at work and putting other people first. But when I read into it and I look at some of like the traits, like very much connects. If I think about like the figurehead I play in my family or in my friendship groups or at home.
Leader. Yeah. Like I said to you about you rally the troops, don't you, really naturally?
Yeah, like and the creative side, like it says on here, like I can convince others of almost anything, and I've had that feedback before, which I don't take on board because it makes me feel really uncomfortable. But actually there's a lot of themes in what people have told me over the years that maybe I need to listen more to.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what this is all about. Like, oh, interesting, I've heard that before. And then like starting to just kind of put I call it like a massive life jigsaw, basically. And you're putting all the pieces together one by one, and you're like starting to look and understand what it looks like by the end, really.
Yeah, and I love that analogy, because you have to kind of like give yourself that time and that space to build a jigsaw. Like no one does that overnight.
No, exactly. And you're meant to get it wrong, because that's like, if it was easy, like you wouldn't, do you know what I mean? It's boring.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. And who else did we have? Kelly. We haven't. Oh, have you?
I can't remember. I was just trying to find, because I saved it somewhere and I can't find it. But it was between a guide and creator, but guide was the heavier. That was a larger percentage. But I think I'm kind of one of those that I very much like giving advice. I like supporting people. I know what the right thing to say is, and I know how to support people.
You're an empath. Yeah.
And I've been reading that book that you said, but I'm very much like, I don't always practice what I preach, and I'm really trying to start doing that, because I've always like very much like, oh, I wish I had that, or I wish I was like that, rather than actually take. And a friend of mine messaged me the other, she actually voice noted me having a huge rant about someone else who we don't know. It was actually someone on Instagram that she had followed, and it's a typical social media thing. Follow someone, and I'll tell you who it is, because that's how bizarre it is. Mrs. Hinch. She was having a massive rant about Mrs. Hinch's new house, having all these things that she wanted. And whereas like I was like, oh yeah, she has got all these lovely things, but she's worked for it. Also, don't strive and be envious or jealous of someone else's life. Appreciate that, but I said you've got to put it out there, because there's nothing to say that one day you can't have that. And for me, it was like, whereas the old me may have gone, oh yeah, I don't want to be like that anymore. I want to go, actually, everyone deserves their own happiness. And rather than be bitter about it, and it's that kind element that I'm really trying to live towards, because it's like, actually, that's them, and then you do you, and be kind, because actually a lot of people, what you see is they've had their own shit and hurdles to get where they want to be. Embrace that, and actually spend time and appreciate what you have got, because there are a lot of people that look at us, and say, oh, I want to have that. So actually it's a lot about appreciating the now and what you've got now, and that's, I'm really trying to.
Your perspective of that is massive, is a massive shift though, isn't it? Like, huge.
Sorry, I've got spaghetti in my
and it comes back to, on that note quickly, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. I love that quote, because actually it might be that some of those friendships you're outgrowing, and actually getting them all away is important, because sometimes if you hold on to them, then actually you maybe can't up level or like find the people actually that you're meant to find. I always say with Jo, our neighbour was Eden, and she got me onto this spiritual path because she was Canadian. She came in literally wacky and moved into Didcot. She was not like anyone else in the world. It wasn't a coincidence. She moved in next door to me. It was like, whoa, like she was spiritual. She was a yoga teacher. Honestly, it was like, I didn't know anyone like that in my life, right? But she came into my life for a reason. Like, she got me off one path onto another. And that's the thing, it's sometimes labeling that and realizing actually, oh, maybe that's someone that came into my life for a reason or a season, and then it's actually easier to let that person go with kindness sometimes. Amazing. Fab. I feel like we've covered so much already. How was it doing the visualization and the future self journal prompts? Did anything, you don't have to share here, but did anything come up that you guys want to share at this point? Happy? I would just say, don't worry if like nothing comes up the first time. Maybe do it a few times, but this is about connecting with the energy of how you want to feel in 3 months' time. So that's why that kind of in 3 months I'm really feeling that. Like, what does it feel like? What does it look like? What clothes do you wear? I know that's silly, but like, it's a really physical representation of like how you're showing up differently in your life. Like, how are you interacting with people on a daily basis? How much sleep are you getting? The real kind of like really leaning into that, because that helps us get into kind of embodying the shifts that we're going to make. So I'd just say maybe do that one again between now and next week. Okay.
Can I that, Natalie?
Yeah, Lizzie, carry on. Yeah.
Like when I'm sort of like doing visualizations or I'm doing meditations, I really like to connect to like different parts of my body as well, because sometimes when we just try and visualize just from the mind itself, your heart and your mind, for example, might be disjointed or disconnected in what they're both feeling. So sometimes it's good to really take your awareness down to your heart space and maybe start thinking about those your future self and those things that you're sort of imagining that you're wanting to bring into your life at that time as well. And sometimes that can be difficult feeling from your heart. Sometimes we feel like we can't connect to our hearts. So I sometimes like to imagine or visualize my heart and then visualize the energy around that heart as well. This is all stuff that we're going to be getting into a little bit more deeply throughout the course anyway. So
one thing I would say is mind, body, soul. They're the 3 layers for me of healing. So like sometimes mind is like one layer, but where Lizzie comes in, she's body. So she helps us kind of do this work and embody some of the emotion around some of this stuff, because actually they're 2 very different things. Because actually we live in our head, but actually 5% well, we're 95% subconscious. So if you think of a pyramid, 5% is the top. That's what we're aware of. 95% of it is subconscious. That shows how much of this is influenced by actually going deeper and through the meditations and things, which is why it takes time. But actually, with our willpower alone, 5%, that isn't actually that much to work with, which is why the deeper layer is really important. That's where Lizzie and Lizzie's experience comes in.
Yeah, I saw actually somewhere the other day, and it said we have 3 brains: the gut, the heart, and the mind.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all linked, but we only train one of them. Cool, amazing. So are you all firstly all happy to come to Santosha next Wednesday and meet in person? Fab, how exciting. I've never ever done a session in person before, so like I'm going to be so excited and nervous at the same time. So obviously I've sent you all the address and things like that. We will go for 7:30 again, because that was a better time for people, but I'll probably be there from like 7:15. So if anyone wants to come early and allow themselves time and things like that, then I'll kind of meet you at the entrance and walk you up. Lizzie's not going to be there because she's all the way in Shropshire, but she'll be back with us when we're back online. And I just wanted to kind of, for the last 10-15 minutes, just introduce the first topic. So the first topic that we're going to be working through is childhood essence. When I say childhood essence, like, what do you think I mean? What comes up for you guys when I say that phrase?
What we enjoyed as children? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I would say like stripping us back bare, if that, before any sort of influences come in, how we were at the real core of ourselves.
Yeah, like true authentic self.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I thought it meant like childhood experiences. You were going to ask us maybe some awkward questions, so I didn't.
I might be asking some awkward questions next week. No, I won't. Yeah, exactly. It's about that kind of concept of a soul, really, and like being born into the world like as a soul, and actually having a unique gift and having like a unique blueprint of a unique personality. You all have children, right? So actually sometimes you can't account for the fact that they're all so different when they're born, and they have all these really unique, quirky elements to their personality. And it's about harnessing that. And actually, what if they never forgot who they were, or unapologetically, authentically, right? Because actually, like, we've all gone through, and I've got goosebumps now, because that's exactly what it's about. Like, we go through the process of like unlearning who we are to then relearn it again, if that makes sense. But I always say my sister is a spiritual medium, and she does a lot with children, and she works with children spiritually to try and like keep them on that spiritual path from like really early on. Because actually, what if we never lost? What if we never forgot? Like, how powerful is that concept? So we go back to kind of understanding. We find a childhood picture that I want you all to all bring next week. So one childhood picture. You could bring a few, but one. And it's really connecting with the energy of that. Like, you know, I was a live wire. Like, I only wore the brightest colours. I literally would go to school and primary school, and I would wear, like, honestly, every single colour in the rainbow all at once. And my parents were like all introverts, and my sister too. And they were like, whoa, like, what the hell's going on here? Like, who is this? Because I'm so different, right? But for me, I was too much. So I had to kind of blend in, be quiet. I spoke over my sister a lot growing up, and she then had speech therapy, and I was told that was my fault. So actually for me, it was like, oh, I've got to be quiet. Like, what have I done? I can't be loud anymore. I've got to try and fit in. So you can see how my personality completely shifted. And now it's about embracing the too muchness, because actually my too muchness is how I make my mark on the world. Do you see what I mean? How that can be so interesting, how that shifts. So we're going to be asking a few of your friends and family what you were like as children as well, because it's hard to remember. It might not be easy. So asking kind of your parents, like, for some quirky stories, you know, and we'll tell a few of those next week, kind of some of the weird and wacky things that we did, the stuff that we enjoyed. It might be that we just like really loved books, or there were certain things, like I loved performing and I was in a stagecoach and things like that. And also the things that kind of came naturally to us. It might be certain sports or certain hobbies we just kind of really kind of took our hand to really well. Lizzie, do you want to share anything from when you did this work the first time?
I guess the one thing, you know, like all of our childhoods are different, and you know, sometimes there's like turbulent things that arose in our childhood as well. So just be prepared that there might be some difficult things that come up, and that's okay too. But we're going to try and focus on the positive things.
Yeah, I think it's really important to make that distinction as well between counselling and coaching at this point, because actually if stuff comes up that we feel like we need to look at, that's where we make the differentiation around, actually, if you want to go into some of that stuff and do some kind of like childhood trauma healing or inner child healing, we can refer you on to various people. But what we're doing here is reconnecting with that positivity of that blueprint and then using that to move us forward. And that's the difference. Coaching is about who we're becoming, how we're moving forward. Counselling is about actually processing some of that kind of and staying in that moment and understanding that a little bit more. So it's just important for us to make that differentiation. But yeah, it's really connecting with those kind of really unique, quirky bits that we maybe forgotten. Like we might remember some really kind of things we loved or certain toys. Ellie's laughing. I want you to share now.
I'm laughing because I'm like, if you ask me questions about my childhood, I don't know whether I've either forgotten or deprioritized it or suppressed things.
Yeah.
So there's like, if I sit and think like immediately to like reel off things about my childhood, I'm like, I need to call my mum. Like, yeah. I don't remember my childhood, but how mental is that? Because I was in the moment, I experienced all that. So I'm quite excited to be set the homework to go and like actually find out who I was.
Yeah, who was I back then? Because it's an old version and it's kind of like, but there's some real interesting power there. Like there's some really interesting information there to be found. But trust kind of what comes up, because some people struggle with this module because actually it takes a bit of time. It might be that like certain things you have a question that you ask someone and then she speaks to someone and you find out something three weeks later. Like I've been finding out a lot about my great grandma Ruby who had schizophrenia. And that's where a lot of the mental health in my family line has come from. And that's only something I've been uncovering recently. So you'll find it's just like the information will find you when it's meant to, but just start to get curious about some of this and kind of be open to kind of getting back into connection with that kind of that inner child, because there's a lot of power there. Anyone else want to share anything that like has cropped up from kind of memories, or like when we open this box, it can be really interesting. Does anyone want to share?
I was just smiling when Ellie said about like the suppression, because myself and my husband, I remember my first day of school like it was yesterday. I can remember it really clearly, and I remember fancying a boy at 5. I remember it. Whereas my husband, we always joke that he was like Superman and he was found in a field at 5, because he has no memory of anything. And I'm like, how can you not remember? But I vividly remember my leg getting caught in the spokes of a wheel, someone giving me a backie, and I must have been 4 or 5 years old on the street in the close that we live. And like, as I'm saying it, I can visualize it. But like, we quite often have like childhood conversations, or we look at pictures and he's like, no, don't remember it, can't have happened. Unless I saw that picture, I wouldn't believe it. And it just made me smile hearing that, because I was like, oh, there's someone else that doesn't remember.
I really don't. Like I've got one memory, which ironically like was the smell of McDonald's walking in like my house, like when I was like 3 or 4. I had my palms read maybe like, I don't know how many years ago. I'm feeling really old now, but ages and ages and ages ago, like maybe when I was about 17. And I remember them telling me that like I had a power, like I had some form of like special power, and I lost my way and I forgot what it was, and that one day I'd get it back. And even just talking about these types of memories, it's reminded me of that palm reader, because I thought like, you have to tell me everything you know, and obviously they're not there to do that, depending on your beliefs.
You'll find it. Yeah, you'll find it how you're meant to. Like, show me how, where. Yeah,
amazing.
So interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's this is one of my, well, it is, I always say this about every part, don't I, Lizzie? It's my favorite part, but this is actually one of my favorite parts, because it's just it's a conversation we don't have, or we don't go back there. And I think there's just so much joy to be found from actually just reconnecting with some of that energy of like how we came into this world, like, and how big our visions were and the change we wanted to make, you know, and how we showed up, because actually there's so much difference there that we've that we've forgotten. So we're going to kind of be sharing, like I say, a little bit around what our family and friends have told us. So we'll share kind of as much as we want to, as well as that childhood picture, and connect with like the energy of that. And maybe kind of thinking about looking at that picture, like what that energy shows in the picture. Because you can tell a lot from a picture, and even from one picture, get a real feeling of like how it felt to be, you know, back there almost at that time in your life. And then you're going to go on to basically write a letter to your childhood self. As part of this week's homework. You won't have to share the letter. We're not going to kind of go that deep, just because that will be quite personal, but we're going to kind of more keep it of sharing the feeling of the elements we want to reconnect to back with from our childhood. And that will actually then move us forward into values. So we're kind of going back before we move forward. And that's kind of the first few weeks, really. We go back, we have a quick kind of like retrospective look, and then we use that information and we then move into values, which is then where we spend the first month pretty much. I don't know how I've nailed the time. Like, this never happens, does it, Lizzie? I'm literally like, just then it was 20:30. I was like, wow, I'm done. Okay, but just a quick check-in around any questions at this point, really. I will talk a bit about just triple checking everyone's on to kind of Thinkific as well as Slack, but I feel like that's where I'm going to leave it, because I think it's enough in that we have actually covered quite a lot, and I feel like we've got almost, you know, really close in that just that first hour as well. But is there anything that I've not covered or that I've said that anyone wants to kind of ask questions on at this point?
I think so.
No. Okay. All right, Lizzie, anything that you want to add, because you won't be with us next week?
No, not at the moment, but yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in how long will it be actually?
So you'll probably be back with us in like 3 weeks time, probably 2 or 3 weeks time. So we'll do values probably in person at Santosha, and then we'll flip back and do month 2 online with Lizzie, and then we'll probably come back to being in person for month 3, which is life purpose. And I think for most of you that I spoke to, the blend is going to work quite well, just because obviously you've got families to juggle. So I didn't want to have to get you there kind of week in, week out every week. So we kind of thought the blend of the first kind of program being a bit of both. And you can guide me on that. If next week you guys are like, I want to come back in person, then we'll make that happen. But month 2 will be online anyway, because that's with Lizzie. But I think let's just see how we feel next week. Some of us might want to share certain bits and be more comfortable in an online sense. I think let's just keep really open about that, because I'm really new to delivering this in person, but I also wanted to test it out, because I think there's a lot of power about being in the same room as well. We'll all be crying probably.
Oh God, don't say that.
I will
I love a cry as well. I love a cry. And everyone is happy with, I think, if you can Slack, there's not a massive any other, we're all on there. I think if you could update your pictures, and after today, I will just send an email out with kind of everything we've covered, as well as an email to the group. But if you could just kind of make sure the Slack app is either on your phone or your computer, that'd be really good, because actually that communication through the program, through Slack, through the week is really powerful. Like, for example, go and find your pictures and post a picture on there into Slack, because that's the kind of thing that's going to help us keep this momentum here. I don't want you to go away, almost not speak, and then come back and us be like, oh, where we're at. I think the more we engage with Slack as a channel, and we're all in that, the more value you guys get out of the program, to be honest. So that's a really important part. And then I've just sent a link to the reading list. You don't need to buy every book on there. It's really overwhelming. But I would say like 1 or 2. Jay Shetty, I'm obviously going to recommend, because he's amazing, and I do use a lot of his thinking in this course. But if you want to have a chat with me about which ones are best to start with, let me know. It might be that you start the reading list at the end, but it's all just, it's stuff that's on the theme of what we're discussing. But don't worry if it feels overwhelming, because it's, you know, you've got the rest of your life for some of this. It's just the beginning. We'll get to the end and I say it's just the beginning, because that's what it's all about. Like, now you're on this path. It's a constant journey. I'm not going to say anything else. I think I'm going to let you all go and enjoy the rest of your evenings. But it's been amazing to meet you all in person or live in person. I feel like we're in person. And yeah, I'm around, so please message me if there's anything that you go away and you think, well, hang on a minute, what does that mean? It doesn't quite land. I'm here, use me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Lovely to see you all.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you all.
Bye.
See you soon.
Can't wait, guys, and I'll see you guys next week in person.
See you next week.